Welcome back, everybody. Here we are on the verge of wrapping up Series 2, but this is Not Funny Guys Presents Red Dwarf Rewatch. I am your host, Dr. John, and here we go. We are now at the end of Series 2. So we have reached Episode 6 of Series 2, Parallel Universe, once again directed and produced by Ed By, and closing credits there, written by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. This one was released on 11th October 1988. Summary. So we had the crew is out to test Holly's new invention, the Holly Hop Drive, only to find Red Dwarf entering into an alternate parallel universe consisting of female versions of themselves. The cat, however, finds that his parallel counterpart is a dog. While killing time while Holly's invention is repaired to take them home, Lister makes the unwise decision to sleep with his counterpart, not knowing that it will mean for him. Dun dun dun. All right, so this one actually opens with a different. We no longer have the Holly summarizing little SOS. And this time we get what is the most flamboyantly crazy, weird, over the top montage of this song called Tongue Tied, which is led by John-Jules as the cat, doing this whole ridiculous number. And it goes further, folks. It really does. This isn't just some thing that turns out to be a dream that he's recording, he's looking for. But the tongue-tied song that they did here basically was originally just a gag. It turned into a full-blown song and dance sequence. And John-Jules released it as an actual his own version in 1993, and it reached number 17 on the UK charts. It also is the first and only musical number by Howard Goodall to reach the top 20 of the UK top 40 music charts. And now this comes from Red Dwarf fandom. So thank you very much for that information, but it is absolutely absurd. This is obviously not the one he's looking for. He's looking for some other dream, but it's a hilarious way to open this. And since it's a series finale, it makes a lot of sense. The crew are all in the quarters. Rimmer's on the bike. Lister is working on a crochet. Kat is obviously getting into what appears to be a polyamorous desire for multiple ladies. Rimmer's favorite book comes up, and it turns out that he's big into hypnotizing girls, a book about hypnotizing girls for dates. Lister doesn't believe him, and Rimmer then says he did get a date on this. And like I said, Lister doesn't believe him, but he said she had an artificial nose. It was tasteful, but he made it into a horrible date because he basically kept making jokes about the nose. Lister then says to Rimmer, women are not aliens, they're people. You have to treat them that way. And then he reenacts a little chat up line he did. Lister ruins it multiple times about a woman in a bar. Lister messes up the line, and Rimmer on purpose, giving the not replies and everything. Finally, Holly jumps in and says he's made this ultimately massive, great invention, the Holly Hop Drive. Claims it's epic. Instantly transport them home is what he claims, and Lister is unimpressed by the box when they finally see it. It has a start-stop button, but they're really excited at first, thinking this might be their ticket home, which, in my words, seems like an interpretation in case they never got picked up again for a third series. Rimmer, of course, is sure that they will die. Lister finally punches the button after Holly does this really convoluted, stupid countdown that's just, he forgets the number 7. And so the ship vanishes, reappears. Holly thinks they've gone to Earth, but somehow it's missing. In fact, they didn't travel any distance. Instead, what they've done is go nowhere, except into a parallel universe. And they see another ship, which is an exact copy of Red Dwarf. So they've jumped into a parallel universe. Holly calls it the fifth dimension, coexisting realities, but unaware of the existence of the other. Rimmer says it compares that to being his parents. Coexisting realities that refuse to ignore, are unable to acknowledge the other. I love the fact that they do this. So unsure of what they'll find on the other ship, they meet Hilly, Holly's counterpart, future female Holly. This young woman, I believe her name is Hattie Hayridge, plays her. She will actually be taking over for Norman Lovett as Holly. until series 7. Apparently, I read up on this. Norman Lovett was a little upset with how the production was being run, and so he leaves for a time, but he will come back eventually. So we are now technically introduced to our new Holly. So they now go over to the new Red Dwarf, where they find that everybody there is a woman. There is a female Rimmer and a female Lister. No cat, but there is a dog. Dave Lister meets Deb. Deb is played by Angela Bruce. Arnold meets Arlene, played by Suzanne Beatrice. And there are even female Scudders. And then this parallel universe is like the very opposite of our universe. It's a very female-oriented society, basically the flip side from us. Instead of Neil Armstrong, it was Nellie Armstrong. It wasn't Will Shakespeare, but it wasn't William, it was Wilma. And there is, they even ask him, are you one of those masculinists? Play on feminists. Cat finally meets his dog opposite after being quite excited, only to be very disappointed. His name is Moochie. So, Cat runs off after he ran off to meet him. Like I said, he was very disappointed, quite repulsed, because not only is Moochie a dog, but he's also filthy and disgusting. And of course, there is a word he doesn't like, and that word is bath. When Cat says it, he gets upset and he says, spell it. It's B-A-T-H. He's like, what's that? Everyone decides they're going to go to the disco because they have 17 hours to wait before the Holly Hop drive is fixed. Everyone is in a weird situation where everybody's in a weird place where Arlene, Arnold's Rimmer's opposite, definitely trying to hook up with him. Where Lister is a little bit more, shall we say, oblivious to what's going on with his counterpart. But that's kind of the weird little interaction in the bar. Bad interactions mostly. Arlene Rimmer even reads, the female Rimmer even reads about a book about hypnotism she likes to use. And she basically sexually harassing the male Rimmer hard, which is funny in an ironic sense. Moochie and the cat hate each other. They're just awkwardly standing off to the side. Rimmer is literally terrified of his female version, which is hilariously ironic again. Lister getting along much better with his female counterpart, but it's still, he's kind of repulsed by her. But it's funny because the same things that he's repulsed by her are the same things that people find repulsing of him, which is again the sort of ironic twist going on here. Cat and Moochie have this very strange dance off. The cat actually dances while Moochie just stomps around. Rimmer finally gets in contact via the little watch with Holly and Hilly to find out what the timeline is. Apparently they've been making out. Rimmer then finds a way to escape and runs away. When he talks to Lister about this, he says, are you a man or a munchkin? And Rimmer sings, I'm off to see the wizard, and runs. I love that. Dave and Deb get super drunk and end up sleeping with each other. And this is like a whole thing where Dave plays the part of the woman, like, how could you? You didn't use protection? It wasn't my responsibility. And the fun part is when Arlene and Arnold walk in on them and very much judgy them. There is talk about chances that because they're in this universe and the laws of this universe, Lister could get pregnant. And they're in their world and their rules. And Rimmer deduces it. And Holly then confirms it. Rimmer is very gleeful at this sort of punishment for Lister, but they get the Holly Hop drives fixed. They have to leave. The Scudder comes in, bringing with him a bunch of his little children, which is absolutely funny as hell. Crew returns to their universe. They didn't show them talking about a pregnancy test while Rimmer and the cat look at it while Lister is sort of panicking. And they do flashback. Holly throws back to the Future Echoes episode from series 1 where Lister did see twin boys and he said, you'll find out, it'll be interesting. And this is where Rimmer deduces that this is how he got pregnant. And then he then confirms it, and this is where we cut away. My ultimate thoughts on the end of this is that I love the mirrored experiences quite hilariously for how it exposes a lot of hypocrisy about a male-dominated universe by showing it back in the faces of the men in the society. So that brings us to the end of Series 2. On Friday, we'll be getting into Series 3. We'll have a new Holly, unfortunately, but she does a great job. Hilly does a great job. So until then, please like, subscribe, comment. Like I said, I'm loving to get some input on the formatting, see what you guys think. things that we can be doing. But if you haven't got enough of what we're doing here with Red Dwarf, please go back to the Red catalog. We've done stuff on Andor season 1 and 2 and Venture Brothers. So please check all of that out if you want to and thing. But like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. If this isn't your flavor, but you want to check out some movies, go over to our main channel, Off the Reels, where our podcast, where we talk about, not funny guys, Off the Reels, where we talk about movies we're currently in the midst of demolishing. And Casey has dedicated himself to pissing off all Star Wars fans. So that should be fun. We'll find out when the death threats come in. Of course, if you want to write us and tell us about those death threats or complaints or things that we're wrong about, please feel to write us at notfunnyguys.offthereels@gmail.com. That is the best way to get in contact with us. We tend to read most of that stuff, mainly Casey. So if you want to threaten him, please do so. But if you want more of not just less of me, but more of Casey and Eric, you can check out their Wrestling with the Horror of It All, where they do wrestling and horror movies, if that's your cup of tea. They are also gearing up for next month when they're going to Fright Night. I will not be attending because my wife has her birthday, and it would be very, very bad of me to leave during that time. So, also, I just don't care. Also, but if you like more of me and our not funny gal, Dr. Kristen, we have Thinking About Thinking, where we're on episode 15, where she's talking about her trad wife experiment. And coming soon, there'll be more. We like to switch off topics. So if that's more of your bend and it sounds interesting to you, check that as well. Otherwise, don't be a smeghead. Keep it not funny, and I'll see you next time.